Growing up as the middle child in the Chin family meant I was constantly caught between my overachieving older sister, Lisa, and my academically gifted younger brother, David. While Lisa excelled in business and David dominated in mathematics and science, I found my passion in art history and cultural studies. Unfortunately, my family viewed this as the soft option, something you pursued when you couldn't handle real subjects. Art doesn't pay the bills, Dad would remind me whenever I brought home another A+ in art history. You need practical skills, not opinions about old paintings. Lisa, 5 years older and already climbing the corporate ladder at a prestigious marketing firm, was particularly dismissive. At family gatherings, she never missed an opportunity to humiliate me. "Ma's got her head in the clouds," she'd announce. "While I'm closing million-dollar deals, she's writing essays about dead painters." The comments stung, but I had learned to let them roll off me. I knew my work had value, even if my family couldn't see it. Building a career. After graduating with a master's degree in art history and cultural preservation, I found a position that perfectly combined my academic background with practical application. I worked for a federal cultural heritage protection program, tracking stolen artwork, authenticating historical pieces, and investigating art fraud cases. The work was fascinating and important, though my family never understood. To them it was some government desk job. "At least it's stable government work," Mom would say consolingly. "Even if it's not very prestigious," Lisa would add with a sympathetic nod. "Government jobs are perfect for people who don't want too much responsibility." What they didn't understand was that my work involved serious criminal investigations. Art theft is a multi-billion-dollar international criminal enterprise, often linked to money laundering, terrorism financing, and organized crime. My expertise in authentication and provenance research made me a valuable consultant to federal law enforcement agencies. Evidence at home. The complexity of my job became clear during an 8-month case involving stolen Renaissance paintings surfacing at auction houses. I was working alongside the FBI's art crime team, tracing forgeries and falsified provenance documents. We made a breakthrough when we discovered that legitimate collectors had unknowingly purchased stolen works. To preserve evidence, several extremely valuable pieces needed temporary storage. Because I had both the highest security clearance and expertise in preservation, I was authorized to store them in my climate-controlled basement, retrofitted with museum-grade systems, all funded by the FBI. The pieces included a small Picasso sketch worth $45,000. A Renaissance illuminated manuscript valued at $35,000. A collection of Asian antiquities worth about $40,000. Every morning I would spend a few quiet minutes in the basement, appreciating the craftsmanship. It felt like being a guardian of cultural heritage. My family, however, saw things differently. "Maya's weird art phase is getting expensive," Lisa remarked during one visit. "How much did you spend on this old stuff?" "They're not purchases," I explained patiently. "They're evidence." Dad laughed. "So the government pays you to collect art?" They refused to believe me. To them, I was just a financial mess trying to make my hobby sound important. Lisa crosses the line. Last spring I was sent to Miami for 2 weeks to authenticate a suspicious collection. Confident that my basement was secure under federal surveillance, I left without worry. 3 days later, a text arrived from Lisa. "Stopped by your house. Everything looks fine, but seriously, the amount of money you've wasted on that basement gallery is concerning." I warned her not to touch anything. She brushed it off. "Relax. I'm not going to steal your precious art collection." 2 days later came another text that froze my blood. "Had an appraiser look at your pieces. Some of this stuff is actually valuable. He says the whole collection could fetch $120,000. I called her immediately. "Lisa, you cannot sell my collection. Those pieces are evidence." She laughed. "Come on, Maya. Stop making your hobby sound like police work. You bought expensive art you can't afford. I'm just trying to help you make a smart financial decision." I begged her to leave everything alone. She promised not to do anything dramatic. I believed her. I was wrong. On my final day in Miami, I got a call from a frantic stranger. "This is Robert Hartman of Hartman Fine Art Gallery. I bought a collection from your sister yesterday, and now FBI agents are here confiscating everything. They're saying it's stolen evidence." I closed my eyes. "Mr. Hartman, I'm Agent Maya Chin, FBI Cultural Heritage Protection. Those pieces were evidence in a federal case. My sister had no authority to sell them. But I paid $120,000, he protested. You've been defrauded, I said grimly. I immediately called my supervisor. Director Williams didn't waste words. Agent Chin, your sister committed theft of federal evidence, fraud, and obstruction of justice. We need you back in D.C. immediately. Followed. The flight home was a nightmare. Lisa had convinced herself I was lying about my job and income, that the art in my basement was mine, not the FBI's. She thought she was helping me by liquidating what she believed were my assets. But in reality, she had committed multiple federal felonies. Her actions compromised a months-long investigation, tainted the chain of custody, and potentially gave defense attorneys an argument to weaken the case. When I landed, I went straight to the field office. Agent Chin, Williams said grimly, your sister forged your signature, posed as your financial advisor, and sold federal evidence. Intentions aside, she may have just sabotaged one of the most important cultural heritage cases in years. That evening, I forced myself to attend dinner at my parents' house. Lisa was glowing at the table, basking in admiration. There she is. Dad exclaimed proudly as I walked in. Lisa told us about your big art sale. $120,000. We had no idea you were sitting on such valuable pieces. Mom hugged me, beaming. We're so proud that you finally made a practical financial decision. Lisa said the money will help with your student loans. I looked around the table at my family's happy faces. They had no idea Lisa had just destroyed her life by committing multiple federal crimes. Your weird art sold for $120,000, Lisa announced dramatically, clearly having practiced the line. The family burst into celebration. Finally useful for something. Mom cheered, raising her glass. Everyone applauded and congratulated Lisa for her so-called financial advice. I forced a smile, trying to figure out how to explain what had actually happened. Congratulations, I said quietly. Lisa, glowing with pride, leaned toward me. I know you're probably mad that I went behind your back, but Maya, you needed someone to make the hard financial decisions. You were sitting on a fortune while complaining about money. Tell me exactly how you sold the pieces, I asked. She launched into her explanation, self-satisfied. I found this gallery owner, Robert Hartman, who specializes in high-end art. He was very professional, did proper authentications, and paid fair market value. The whole transaction was completely legitimate. You signed the bills of sale. I signed as your representative. I explained you were out of town but had authorized the sale. Hartman was fine with it once I showed him my ID and explained our family relationship. Before I could reply, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. The voice on the other end was panicked, nearly shouting. Is this Maya Chin? Yes. Who is this? This is Robert Hartman from Hartman Fine Art Gallery. FBI agents are confiscating everything I bought from your sister. I walked into the kitchen for privacy. Mr. Hartman, I need you to stay calm and cooperate fully with the agents. They're saying the pieces were stolen goods. They're saying I purchased federal evidence. How is that possible? I could hear the celebration continuing in the dining room, oblivious to the disaster unfolding. Mr. Hartman, those pieces were evidence in an FBI investigation. My sister had no authority to sell them. You were defrauded. But she signed bills of sale. She said she was your financial representative. My sister committed theft of federal evidence and fraud. I'm an FBI agent, and those pieces were stored at my residence under official authorization. There was silence, then frantic rustling of papers. Oh God, Hartman whispered. The agents are asking about obstruction of justice and trafficking in stolen goods. They want to know if I knew the pieces were evidence. Tell them exactly what Lisa told you. You're a victim of fraud. Cooperate fully. I hung up and walked back to the dining room. Lisa was still holding court. Who was that? Dad asked. The gallery owner, I said calmly. Lisa perked up. Everything okay? He seemed really professional when I worked with him. Lisa, I need you to understand something very important, I said evenly. Those pieces you sold weren't my personal collection. They were evidence in a federal FBI investigation, stored at my house under official authorization. The room went silent. Lisa gave a nervous laugh. Come on, Maya. Don't be dramatic. I know you work for the government doing something with art, but you make it sound like you're some kind of federal agent. I pulled out my badge. I am Agent Maya Chin, badge number 4471, FBI Cultural Heritage Protection Program. The pieces you sold were evidence in an active investigation into international art theft. The color drained from Lisa's face. That's impossible. You work in some boring office job. I work for the FBI's art crime team. Those pieces were stolen artwork being held as evidence while we built a criminal case against the theft network. Dad stared at my badge. Maya, are you really an FBI agent? Yes. And Lisa just committed theft of federal evidence, fraud, obstruction of justice, and interference with a federal investigation. Lisa stood suddenly. This is insane. I was trying to help you. You never told me you were an FBI agent. I told you repeatedly not to touch the pieces in my basement. I told you they were evidence. I thought you were making that up to sound important, she cried. Lisa, why would I make up being an FBI agent? Because you always felt inferior about your career compared to mine, she said weakly. The room was frozen. My parents looked between us, struggling to understand how their successful eldest daughter had committed federal crimes against her supposedly unsuccessful younger sister. My phone rang again. Director Williams. Agent Chin, we need your sister to turn herself in. Arrest warrants have been issued. Can you bring her in, or do we need to send agents? She's here with me, I said quietly. I'll bring her in. I hung up and looked at Lisa. You need to come with me to the FBI field office. You're being charged with multiple federal felonies. Felonies? Mom gasped. Theft of federal evidence, fraud, forgery, obstruction of a federal investigation. Each carries up to 10 years in prison. Lisa began to cry. I didn't know. I thought I was helping you. You forged my signature and sold $120,000 worth of evidence. The fact you thought you were helping doesn't change the crimes. But you never told me you were an FBI agent. You never asked. You just assumed my job was meaningless because that fit your image of me as the failure. Dad dropped his gaze. Maya, we had no idea about your real work. I tried to tell you, but none of you ever listened. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. We failed you. We treated your career like nothing while you were doing crucial law enforcement work. The immediate problem is Lisa, I said firmly. She needs a criminal defense attorney. Federal prosecutors don't offer leniency for theft of evidence. Lisa looked around the table, desperate. Can't you just tell them it was a misunderstanding? That I didn't know? Lisa, my testimony would only make things worse. You violated my trust, compromised a federal investigation, and committed serious crimes. Being my sister doesn't excuse that, it makes it worse. The drive to the field office was silent. Lisa stared out the window, whispering occasional questions about prison and criminal records. How long have you been an FBI agent? She finally asked. 6 years. 6 years. You've been a federal agent for 6 years and I never knew. You never asked. You just dismissed my work as unimportant. At the office, Lisa was processed and charged. She was released on bond but faced trial within 6 months. The fallout was immense. Robert Hartman was cleared but lost $120,000 and suffered reputational damage. The art was recovered, but the defense argued the chain of custody was tainted. While we still won the case, sentences were reduced. Lisa pled guilty and received 3 years in federal prison, plus 5 years supervised probation. Her career was destroyed. At sentencing, she admitted, I convinced myself my sister was financially irresponsible because I couldn't accept that she had a more important career than mine. I refused to believe she was an FBI agent. The judge replied coldly, Your assumptions don't excuse theft of federal evidence. Your crimes compromised a major investigation. Lessons. The hardest part was watching my parents reckon with their role in our family dynamic. We created this, Dad admitted. We made Lisa feel she had to be the successful one, and we made you feel like your work didn't matter. You made assumptions, I told him. But Lisa chose to act on them. That choice was hers. Lisa served her sentence and now works at a nonprofit helping ex-offenders reintegrate. She is remorseful, but our relationship is fractured. During one visit she whispered, I still can't believe you're an FBI agent. You never asked, I said. I couldn't handle that my younger sister was more successful. Success isn't a competition, Lisa. But you destroyed your career because you couldn't accept mine. The FBI now uses my case as a training example in evidence storage protocols and the risks of family access. For me, the lesson was harsher. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones most invested in misunderstanding who you are. Lisa's crimes weren't really about money or art. They were about her refusal to see me clearly. The financial damage was $120,000. The investigative damage, months of compromised work. The family damage, a sister in federal prison. Every morning when I check on new evidence in my basement, I'm reminded, cultural heritage protection isn't just about art. It's about protecting truth, ownership, and integrity. Lisa couldn't accept who I was. And that failure cost her everything.